energynewsafrica.com. Just recently, Mr. Bright Simmons, who is with the Imani Africa and M. Pedigree, wrote 2 articles where he raised concerns about a gas agreement that had been signed between Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, Ghana's National Oil Company, and also GENSER. And in that article, he raised concern that Ghana is losing a colossal amount of $1.5 billion. And in the article, he indicated that Imani Africa and Acep, that is African Center for Energy Policy, are doing further investigation about the transaction. So today we are privileged to have Mr. Benjamin Boakye, who is the Executive Director for African Center for Energy Policy. Today we are privileged to have Executive Director of African Center for Energy Policy, Ghana, Mr. Benjamin Boakye. Benjamin Boakye. So we are happy to have you on energynewsafrican.com platform.
Thanks for having me. Yes.
Yeah, so we want you to, first of all, let us understand how far you have gone with that investigation, beginning from what the center knows about that transaction.
No, I think much of the work that has been concluded contained in the write-up that Bright Simmons put out. And essentially that was to expose a contract that has been hidden for a while. And I want to let you know that this contract has not only been hidden from the public, but state institutions have also been looking for the contract for so long. People in PRC, even at the Ministry of Energy, didn't know the content of that contract, and they kept murmuring. But we couldn't react to those murmurings and lack of information flow within the state institutions until we got our hands on the contract itself, which confirmed some of the things that we knew, and also some other shocking revelations, to the extent that a gas that everybody in the industry buys on the average at 6.08 had been discounted for 2.79 for GENSER. I just want to state that it is not wrong for a discount to be provided for any off-taker or any consumer of gas. But the rationale behind those subsidies, have to sit well with industry and also the circumstances of the country. When we look at the operations of GENSER, it is essentially a power company, right? So it is competing with other IPPs and even state-owned enterprises. For example, you have Greco, ECG, VRA operating the power market, where ECG has built transmission lines. VRA and ECG and Greco, they have transmission lines to allow power to be wheeled to the mines in Ghana. And then you have GENSER also trying to compete with them for the same market. What the regulator can do is to ensure that at all times there is a fair condition for these companies to compete. So if the rest of the businesses of IPPs and state-generating companies are buying gas at the cost of 6.08, and it is sold to a private enterprise at 2.79.
All these amounts
are
in dollars, right?
In dollars, yes. How do they compete? What it means is that you have essentially taken the market from the state agencies and giving it to a private man. So the question we were asking is, what is in it for Ghana for that subsidy? If there is something substantial in return, then you could justify it. And if you look at the arrangements between GENSER and GNPC, it actually existed between GENSER and Ghana Gas. And they were buying the gas at the market price, only discounting for the transportation component of the cost buildup, because GENSER built its own pipeline from Prestea to Takwa and Damai, which means that that investment has to be amortized or has to be paid for. Yeah. So just like Ghana Gas, that also has to pay for its investment, they have to split the transportation charge for them to be able to amortize their investment. And I think that was the arrangement Ghana Gas wanted to have with GENSER. And it fell through because GNPC promised a sweet deal, which was far better, far much a giveaway for GENSER than staying with Ghana Gas. So they actually opted to buy gas from GNPC. And this became possible because of a directive that is quoted in the letters that we have seen from the economic management team, establishing that Ghana Gas cannot sell gas to power generating companies. And therefore, that role should be that of GNPC. And it appears that was a precursor or a preparatory ground for this particular agreement that we are talking about.
But,
so that caveat...
Not to cut you, the letter that I've also seen, part of it stated that GNPC should negotiate with GENSER on an amount or a cost that, let me quote, that's where that the former Minister for Energy, in the person of Honorable John Peter Amawu, said in the letter. Okay, so he said the prices of gas supplied to regulated customers shall be approved from time to time as necessary by the regulator, and for gas supplied to non-regulated customers. Then he also said that Ghana Gas will develop and operate any additional pipeline infrastructure that is required to expand or enhance the national generation transmission system. But I cited a place where it says that the cost should be something that probably will inure to the benefit of Ghana or inure to the benefit of the state, and not below what other players in the industry may be paying.
Yeah, I think I was coming there. I mean, and that is a very significant point where the minister instructs that you should sell at the market price, regulated price. So how that changed for the gas to be discounted at a huge amount
from $6.08 to $2.79.
And that is the question, fundamental question we are asking GNPC to respond to. Because when you're giving such a discount, assuming it's even for the infrastructure or the pipeline, you first of all have to estimate how much the pipeline costs GENSER and how much gas do they need to be able to amortize the cost of that infrastructure. So those numbers are very important. We need to have those numbers. Beyond that, everybody else pays transportation.
Yeah.
So the 6.08 includes transportation charge of 0.79 or so, right? So if ECG customers, VRA customers, GRIDCO customers are paying for transmission charge, why is GENSER special? Why are they charging the cost of their infrastructure? Because the transmission charge is also to pay for infrastructure.
Yeah, of course.
Why are they not charging their cost on their customers? But rather, they are charging their cost on GNPC. Right? So whichever way you look at it, it raises more questions than answers. And what is worse is even that, a second amendment
was
done to this particular agreement, which further worsens, the situation for GNPC. So in this new amendment, they are saying that subject to GENSER extending its pipeline to some parts of the country, they are going to now sell the gas at $1.76 per MMBTU. and you even unpack that 1.76,
To
$1 will still come to GENSER for processing. What that means is that the commodity cost is actually reduced to about $0.5, $6 per MMBTU. I mean, and the question really is, how much is GNPC buying the gas in Ghana?
It's buying from the market price. Buying at the market price.
You're buying at the market price. So you're buying gas from different sources. Some sources are more expensive, others are cheaper.
Yeah.
What PRC did by institutionalizing the WACOG, or weighted average cost of gas, was to ensure that we can balance the price to at least reduce it at an average price so that everybody can afford.
Yeah.
So it is even in GNPC's interest for that WACOG to work,
Yeah.
so that your expensive gas will not be abandoned. All right, people will still use it because we have a common market that produces a gas price. If GNPC now begins to appoint favorites and give them any price, who should stay on the WACOG price? Why? Why should Asogli, why should GENSER, Senate, why should they not qualify for the same gas? Preferential treatments. It means that everybody who wants preferential treatments could get it. And what becomes of the actual cost of the commodity that GNPC is buying the gas for? So, I mean, these are very important economic questions that we need GNPC to respond to. Particularly when you look at the energy sector challenges and how GNPC itself has struggled to pay for the gas that it buys from the upstream players. Today, GNPC is buying gas from ENI. The original price of the gas was in excess of $10 by the time they signed the GENSER agreement.
Yeah.
What they did to bring down the cost of the price was to ignore their own interest that they have paid for, the carried and participating interest. And then the state also ignored its royalty share, right, to bring the gas price down. Even that, GNPC still cannot pay for the gas. Just last 2 weeks, ENI had to draw down on our letters of credit to the tune of $183 million. So it's because GNPC cannot pay, and then government is obliged to pick the bill. They can go ahead and do other shady, lazy, and poor contracts, such as what?
You are unable to pay for the gas, yet you are
reducing and subsidizing it.
Discounting it for
Discounting it without showing real numbers on how that benefit the state.
Well, we have cited another letter indicating that the Minister for Energy has responded to a letter that GNPC submitted to them, indicating that they want to now further reduce the cost of the gas from 1.7 MMBTU to 0.50 cents.
Yeah.
Why?
I think that was really the point that I was making. So now they are seeing opportunity to bring additional gas from the 10 and Jubilee fields after the end of the free foundation gas. So there was supposed to be a processing plant to take more of that wet gas, because Ghana Gas cannot do all that processing. So Ghana Gas has gone ahead to procure a private company to do a build, operate, own and operate, transfer boot arrangement with Ghana Gas. So this arrangement that we are seeing is now for GNPC to empower GENSER to compete with Ghana Gas for that single slot to do gas processing plant. So GNPC is now signed an agreement with GENSER to solely sell the extra gas to GENSER. What that means is that the gas is not available for Ghana Gas and the contract that they have signed. All right, so that could also be a potential judgment debt. Or if it proceeds, we have to find money to pay for that you don't know who is really fighting for Ghana, all right, to bring sanity into such a situation where we are undermining state interests. Nobody's against private sector participation, but it has to be reasonable. It has to defend the interests of the state, and the benefit to state has to be clearly defined. Ghana Gas signed an agreement with GENSER to pay them from the transmission charge over time, and then the pipeline becomes that of Ghana Gas, because Ghana Gas is the only transportation company or transmission company in Ghana. But with GNPC's arrangement, GENSER owns the pipeline. And even after the contract, GNPC has to now opt to buy the contract. So what have they been taking almost $4.36 dollars for on every molecule of gas? What are they using the money for? So cumulatively, they are giving a subsidy of about 1.5 billion to GENSER. So you have to tell us what the 1.5 billion is doing. How much is profit? How much is the investment? Of that is the investment. All right? Beyond that, GNPC itself, in its tariff proposal to PURC, indicated that the actual cost of gas for everybody else, apart from GENSER, should be 7.9.
Yes, so you are reducing that.
And now, PURC has approved a tariff of 5.9, which means there's a $2 gap to be recovered. If that is not priced into the gas for others to pay, which will be a punishment for those IPPs and other generators, and it has to find its way into the tariff, a punishment ultimately to the consumer. If that is not done, what it means is that we'll be accumulating that $2 debt on the entire volumes that are consumed in the power sector. And we estimate that to be in excess of $3.6 billion.
That's quite serious. I remember during the engagement you raised a question and Dr. Asante was not even...
That's the kind of debt that people are prepared to hang on the neck of the citizens. And that's what we do, trying to appreciate what is happening and engage the public to see what we can do to reduce this kind of unnecessary burden that we throw at the average citizen.
So like you said earlier on, if probably Mr. Bryce Simpson hasn't brought this issue up, probably you and I wouldn't have been in the know, or I might not have been in the know so as many Ghanaians. Do you think that beyond this document that we are seeing, there was some motives that probably influenced this continuous discounting of the gas price?
No, people knew it. They were not prepared to state in public. Perhaps maybe they also didn't have the contract itself. But as far as I know, there are people in agencies who knew that the gas was being discounted. They didn't know the other terms of the agreement that was going with that discount. But it is the right time to let the public know, even though we have been cheated for a while. It is the right time for us to know, particularly when the second reduction hasn't kicked in, for the right thing to be done to actually save Ghana money, particularly within the current context where we are before the IMF begging for money to support our budget. We can't be this reckless with our gas, to create additional burden that you and I will have to pay for in the near future.
So what is Acep and the Money African beyond bringing the issue to the public knowledge? What are you going to do? Are you just saying it? And like Ghanaian culture, issues will come. We will talk for a while, and that is the end.
No, I think the political class knows that it is for a while, and then that will be the end. I'm not going to talk about strategy. There are many people not just Acep or Imani. There are many people who are willing to intervene.
Intervene in what way?
In any way that they have capacity to
including going to
including going to court or using legal means,
Mm.
going to the streets, going to picket at GNPC's offices or at the office of the president to make sure that these things don't happen. The state doesn't continue to lose money because of reckless decisions. So there are many people who want to take it up, and I will encourage any other citizen who has capacity in any other field to challenge this, to also be part of it. It's not a fight for Acep or Imani or Bright. It's a national fight. You and I have been paying a lot of waste in the energy sector. As we speak, we have drawn down on Standard letters of credit about $360 million so far, outstanding. We have paid so much of it already with interest year on year because we are not able to pay for the gas. We cannot have a situation where, in such difficulty, poor decisions are still being taken to further deepen the crisis that we are going through. So it's not just our fight, it's the fight for everybody that has capacity. You may not be a lawyer, but you can finance somebody to go to court, to challenge some of these things in court, for us to see how together we can protect the public purse. But at this point, it is up on the street, all right? And we need to protect that purse.
We are so much grateful to you, Mr. Benjamin Boakye, for receiving us in your office and also granting us that interview. We are so much grateful.